My husband said his mother should manage my inheritance. That one sentence changed everything. It was a Sunday, like any other, table set. The smell of coffee in the air. Linen tablecloth I had ironed the night before. Our kids played in the yard while my husband, Ethan, read the newspaper. My mother-in-law, Carla, commented on everything. The salt in the bread. The oven time. Even the way I folded the napkins. But that day would be anything but ordinary. With a cold smile, Ethan put down the paper, looked at me, and said, "We were thinking maybe it's best if my mother manages your inheritance just until things settle." The fork slipped from my hand. Carla smiled, satisfied, like she had already won. Seconds of silence passed, but it felt like the whole world cracked. This wasn't just about money, it was about trust. Control. About him thinking my life could be managed by a woman who had never looked me in the eye without judgment. Ethan tried to soften it. "It's just to keep things simple. Honey, she's more experienced." But what he called experience, I called manipulation. Carla always knew how to slip into the cracks. The kind of mother-in-law who praised you in public and sabotaged you behind closed doors. Now she wanted my finances. My future. My peace. That night, I couldn't sleep. Ethan snored beside me, peaceful, as if he'd made the most reasonable request. And me? I didn't know who to trust anymore. Just one thing. This was the beginning of my pain. And my revenge. Because what Ethan didn't know is that the most dangerous women don't scream, they observe. And they act quietly. The first spark of hate came the next week. I was invited to dinner at Carla's house. Ethan insisted it'd be good to reconnect now that she'd be more involved in our financial life. I smiled and agreed. But inside, something was boiling. I knew it wasn't an invitation, it was the first test. Her house was exactly as I remembered it, cold, covered in gold-framed pictures, and smelling of incense that was far too strong. Carla greeted me with an air kiss and a stare that pierced right through me. Ethan was already there, laughing, wine glass in hand. When he saw me, he motioned for me to behave, like I was the child in the family. During dinner, Carla told stories from Ethan's childhood. In all of them, he was the hero, and I was the threat to the perfect little world she'd built around him. She made jokes about my past. Asked laughing, "Did you ever have a relative in jail, dear?" Ethan laughed. I swallowed the bitterness like sour wine and smiled back. Then she raised her glass. Eyes locked on mine. "Now that we're managing your inheritance, I promise nothing will slip through the cracks." Ethan added, "You know you can trust my mom." Love. That word we clung to my ears like hot glue. I wasn't part of the equation. This wasn't about trust, it was about dominance. With dessert, Carla handed me a printed list titled Suggestions for Responsible Investments. It had highlighter marks, handwritten notes, and a list of her nephews. One of them, she claimed, really needed to start a business. Ethan found it very sensible. I found it criminal, but nobody asked me. As we left, Ethan grabbed my arm and whispered, "You were amazing. Thanks for not reacting. That shows maturity." Maturity, the dirtiest word of the night. He didn't want a wife. He wanted a diplomatic doll. And his mother, a puppet master with velvet gloves. When I got home, I went straight to the bathroom. Took off my makeup slowly, staring at every part of my face. I was still there, but part of me had vanished. That moment, staring into the mirror, I made a promise. I'd never let anyone speak to me with condescension again. And I'd never let Carla choose the next dinner again. But what I found out the next week was even more disgusting than any words spoken at that table. The following week, an envelope waited on the dining table, no note, no warning, just my name in Ethan's handwriting. Inside was a thick stack of paperwork filled with legal jargon, stamps, and seals, and at the top, a title that made my stomach turn. Joint Asset Management Agreement, a contract between me, Ethan, and Carla. I rushed to Ethan, who was casually watching TV like he had just left me a birthday card. "Did you read this?" I asked. He didn't even look up. "It's just a formality, babe. My mom's lawyer said it would be safer." My mom's lawyer, not ours, not mine. There was no us in that sentence. I started flipping through the contract. And with every line, my blood boiled. It said any transaction over $5 had to be approved by both co-managers. It even included donations and transfers, my money, my name, and now my prison. I raised my voice, asked if he thought this was normal. Ethan turned off the TV, looked at me with that calm tone that scared me more than shouting. It's for your protection. You're impulsive, and let's be honest, you don't really understand money management. It felt like being slapped in slow motion. The humiliation wasn't in the words, it was in the certainty with which he said them. Later that day, Carla showed up at our house unannounced. As always, she sat on our couch, sipped tea I didn't offer, and said, "I know it's hard to let go of certain things, dear, but this is about maturity and responsibility." That word again, maturity, always used against me like a belt around my throat. Ethan took me to the bedroom and said I was being dramatic. That he just wanted to avoid issues with the family. That it was the right thing to do. I slept on the couch that night. And the next morning, I signed, not because I agreed, but because at that moment, I felt cornered. And the worst part? They celebrated. They had dinner together that night. Laughed as if they just won a game I didn't even know I was playing. But they forgot one thing. I was raised in silence. And I learned to make noise when it matters most. That same week, I found something inside Carla's safe. Something that would change everything I thought I knew about them. I tried to go about life as usual. But everything felt contaminated. Carla's scent on the armchair. The echo of her laugh in the kitchen. Even the silverware felt out of place. Ethan, on the other hand, acted as if nothing had happened. "She's just trying to help," he kept saying, with that condescending tone of someone who thinks they're right. I felt like a guest in my own home. And when I dared to complain, he'd shut me down with a coldness I never expected. Nights became unbearable. I woke up from nightmares, drenched in sweat, hearing Carla's voice echo in my head. Women who don't share end up alone. Was it a threat, a prophecy, or just another manipulation wrapped as advice? I didn't know, but something inside me was shifting. Not anger yet, but alert, a primal instinct whispering, "You're in danger." One day, I came home early and caught Carla alone in the office, rummaging through my drawers. "Oh, I thought this was a linen cabinet," she said, not even flinching. I wanted to believe her. But the smug look on her face screamed otherwise. She was looking for something. Maybe my will. Maybe just territory. I tried talking to Ethan. But he was growing more distant. "You're being paranoid," he said the third time that week. "My mom just wants to help with the finances. You don't really get those things." And in that moment, something broke inside me. Not because of the words, but because I knew he meant them. He truly saw me as fragile, incompetent, a burden to be managed. Days passed. I couldn't let it go until one afternoon I opened Carla's purse. She had left it at our place after dinner. Ethan was out. I was alone, furious. My hands trembled as I unzipped it. I didn't expect to find much, maybe lipstick or a handkerchief. But inside was a note. Handwritten. A list of names, dates, and amounts. And next to my name, $15,000 under family control. My blood froze. She didn't just want to control me, she wanted everything to turn my wealth into another limb of the emotional empire she'd been building for decades. That night, Ethan got home early. I tried to confront him. But he just looked tired and said, "My mom's right. Maybe she should handle the money. She knows what's best." But the worst came next. While going through his jacket pocket, I found a bank transfer receipt to Carla, signed by Ethan with my forged signature. My body froze, but my mind was on fire. If they were willing to forge a signature over paper, what else would they do? The next morning, I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. Sunken eyes, pale skin, hair a mess. I wasn't me anymore. I was a woman surrounded by people who smiled in my face while stabbing me in the back. Carla acted like she owned the house, ordered the maid around, rearranged the furniture, said it needed a more elegant touch. And Ethan? He allowed everything like it was normal, like I was overreacting again. I started doubting myself. Was I really losing it? Was this just insecurity? But everything changed. That morning, I was cleaning the kitchen when I heard a voice message on Ethan's phone. Left unlocked on the table. I had never snooped on him before. But something, a survival instinct, told me to listen. It was Carla. Cold, calculated, Zero affection. She can't know yet. We'll do it slowly. Then you sign as proxy and transfer it. She won't even notice. My stomach turned. The world spun. They were erasing me, removing me from the equation, turning my future into a family plan that didn't include my will. That day, I decided I wouldn't be a spectator in my own life anymore. But I couldn't act impulsively. Not with people this manipulative. I had to be smarter. Colder. Like them. I started documenting everything, every bank transaction, every comment, every subtle attempt to cut me out. I backed up the voice message. I kept a detailed diary of it all. And I hid everything where no one would dare look. I was preparing. Because for the first time, I realized this wasn't a marriage anymore. It was a war. And I was about to strike the match. Carla decided to host a family dinner. Sent printed invitations. Hired a catering service. Redecorated the entire living room without asking me. I only found out when the decorator asked me where the crystal vases were. When I confronted Ethan, he just shrugged. It's important to her. Don't make a fuss over small things. The day of the party, I was invisible. Carla greeted everyone like she was the lady of the house. Introduced me as Ethan's wife, never by my name. When I tried to comment on the menu, she cut me off with a syrupy smile. Oh, sweetie, you work so much. Let me handle this, okay? The polite laughter of the other women cut through me like knives. And Ethan pretended not to hear. During the toast, Carla made sure to thank my wonderful son, who makes me so proud and knows how to honor true blood ties. I froze. All eyes turned to me. Some with pity, others with smug delight. That woman was humiliating me publicly, turning my pain into a spectacle. Later, while I was clearing the glasses alone in the kitchen, I heard her say it. She'll hand everything over soon. You just have to push the right buttons. My blood ran cold. This had gone beyond humiliation. This was emotional, moral, and financial theft. I went back to my room, locked the door, and cried in silence. But it wasn't desperation. It was the cry of someone who'd hit rock bottom and realized there was only one way left to go up. That same night, I did something no one in that house would have ever expected of me. In the early hours, while Ethan snored peacefully beside me, I got up with my heart racing. I went to the office, unlocked the drawer he thought I didn't know how to open, and found what I was looking for, the folder with copies of my documents, including my father's will, the one that stated, in no uncertain terms, that I was the sole legal heir, and no one could touch that money without my direct consent. The money had already been transferred into my personal account. My father did it before he passed. Along with the will, I trusted my husband. I grew up hearing that in a real marriage there should be no secrets. Only later did I learn that trust without protection is an invitation for abuse. I copied everything, took photos, and emailed it all to my personal inbox, the one Ethan didn't know. Then, I powered up the computer, logged into the bank, and activated a second verification code, one he wasn't aware of. Now, any attempt to move the money without my approval would be instantly blocked. It wasn't much, but it was the beginning of my payback. At breakfast, I acted like nothing had happened. Carla rambled on about her new orchids. Ethan talked about a weekend trip, and I smiled like a good actress. But inside, my plan was already in motion, one step at a time. No one suspected the quiet woman at the table, and that was exactly how I wanted it. In the following days, I started recording little comments, sarcastic remarks, passive-aggressive digs, all documented. Carla had a habit of oversharing. After a few glasses of wine, it only took 3 dinners with full glasses for her to clearly state, I'm taking everything from that spoiled girl and using it for the real family. When Ethan took me out to dinner and casually asked if I'd thought about transferring part of the inheritance into his mom's name just to make things easier to manage, I smiled sweetly and replied, of course, love, but first how about we schedule a meeting with my lawyer? Ethan choked on his wine, and Carla looked at me with suspicion. In that moment, I knew the seed of my revenge had sprouted. But they had no idea how deep the root of that pain had grown inside me. The lawyer's meeting was set for a Tuesday afternoon. I specifically chose the most upscale office in town, a place where Carla would feel out of place, where every inch reminded her she didn't belong. We arrived together, but I entered first, letting them see my name at the front desk. Mrs. Rebecca Carter. Sole heir of Mr. Douglas Carter. I watched Carla's eyes narrow. During the meeting, Ethan stayed quiet, pretending to be supportive, but sweat ran down his temples. Carla, with her snake-like voice, tried to charm the lawyer. Would it be possible to transfer part of the asset management to me? Just for safety, of course. The lawyer, calm and sharp as a scalpel, replied, Mrs. Carla, unless your daughter-in-law explicitly names you as a co-owner. You have zero legal authority over this estate. The silence was delicious. Ethan tried to change the subject, but I pressed on. I pulled a recording from my purse, Carla's voice laughing. That idiot doesn't suspect a thing. The money's going to fall right in our lap. The lawyer raised an eyebrow and asked, Mrs. Carter, would you like to pursue legal action for attempted financial fraud? I looked them both in the eyes and calmly replied, not yet, but I want them to know that I know. We left in silence. In the elevator, Carla tried to explain. Ethan said it was just a joke. I said nothing because silence cuts deeper when it comes from someone they thought was weak. That night, I set the table like always. But I only set 2 plates. When Ethan asked where his mother's plate was, I looked him straight in the eyes and said, anyone who betrays my trust doesn't sit at my table. Ethan laughed, thinking I was overreacting, but Carla understood. And the fear in her eyes was the best seasoning of the evening. The next morning, Carla was gone. Her suitcases vanished, her little corner in the house empty. Ethan said she decided to cool off for a few days. I just nodded with a smile. But inside, I was celebrating. That very day, I began my silent revenge. Nothing impulsive, nothing that could backfire. Just small calculated steps to dismantle the web they'd spun around me. First, I changed every single password. Then, I rewrote my will with terms so airtight, no attorney would dare challenge them. Ethan started to notice the shift. He tried to be affectionate, helpful, but it was too late. Respect, once broken, doesn't return with sweet words. He didn't know it yet, but he was already out of my story. I started going to new places alone. Signed up for an art class. Reconnected with old friends. Even started using my maiden name on some documents. The world that once revolved around my marriage now revolved around me. And the feeling was nothing short of liberating. Carla called every single day. Ethan said it was concern. But I knew better. It was fear. Fear of losing comfort. Fear of losing control. Fear of losing the obedient little doll they thought they had shaped. One Saturday, I came home early and found Ethan crying in the bathroom. The joint account was closed. His credit card declined. The transfer to his mom's company cancelled. He looked at me like he didn't recognize me anymore. I simply said, now you're finally meeting the woman who's been here all along. The house felt different without her. Ethan moved to the guest room. And I slept like a rock for the first time in years. Without pretending everything was fine. But I knew the storm wasn't over. Early the next morning, Carla sent me a message. Cold, direct. You'll regret this. I deleted it without replying. She was used to winning by yelling. Now she'd have to face the power of someone who learned to win in silence. Ethan tried confronting me in the kitchen, saying, I went too far. That airing dirty laundry in front of family was cruel. I stayed quiet for a moment. Then, I looked him in the eyes and asked, cruel or fair? He didn't have an answer. I spent the day canceling shared cards, removing Ethan's name from every account linked to my inheritance, and organizing paperwork. I called my lawyer and had my will updated. No room left for uncertainty. That evening, I got an unexpected call. It was Ethan's sister. She wanted to apologize, said she knew things but never had the courage to speak up. She always made everyone feel small, even me. I admitted I'd felt the same for years. But not anymore. I had said no. I had drawn a line. And that in itself was already an act of revenge. That night, I saw Ethan typing on his phone in secret. Nervous. I didn't ask, but I noted the time and I stayed alert. 2 days later, I was served. Carla was suing me, not for money, but for emotional distress and alienation of family ties. Her lawyer claimed I had interfered with her relationship with her grandchildren she'd only seen at 3 Christmas dinners. It was absurd, but real. Ethan denied being involved, but his name was right there on the documents. Listed as a witness, voluntarily or worse. Spinelessly. It hit me like a punch. I was sleeping next to someone who would betray me without blinking. My lawyer was clear. She's trying to wear you down. Push you to the edge. But she has no case. Only venom. Still, I trembled. The neighborhood found out. Other moms stopped saying hello. Social invites vanished. Carla was winning in the arena she cared most about, appearances. And me? I was being painted as the villain. One night, my oldest daughter asked, "Mommy, why did Grandma say you won't let us see her?" I couldn't answer. I just held her tight. How do you explain manipulation to a child? How do you protect a young heart from a grandmother who lies with a smile? The court date was set for 3 weeks later. And even knowing how weak her case was, I felt the weight of every glance. Every whisper. It was like being judged by an entire town with no real defense. Carla didn't want justice. She wanted to break me. Then, I got an anonymous message. Just a name and an address. "She's done this before. You're not the first." It was all I needed. Not for revenge, but to finally expose the truth. And truth has a cruel way of coming to light. On the day of the hearing, I walked into the courtroom with my head high, not because I felt strong, but because I decided, if I was going down, I'd go down fighting. Carla sat in the front row with a smug grin and a brand new pearl necklace. Ethan by her side, avoiding my eyes. Shame still clung to him, but not enough to stop the mess he helped create. The judge began reading the claims. Then, my lawyer stood up and handed over a set of files. They came from the anonymous tip, 3 past lawsuits. Same accusations, same pattern: manipulation, emotional blackmail, financial control. Carla's face turned pale. Ethan tried to interrupt, but the judge silenced him. Then, my lawyer read a line from one of the letters written by Carla's ex-daughter-in-law. "She destroyed my marriage and tried to steal my children's inheritance." The courtroom went silent, but it was the kind of silence that screams. Within minutes, the case flipped. The judge, stern and fair, looked straight at Carla and said, "This courtroom will not be weaponized for personal vendettas. Mrs. Carla, your behavior is reprehensible and repetitive. You are dismissed with a formal warning. Any further harassment will be dealt with accordingly." Ethan tried to speak to me in the hallway afterward. I didn't let him. What we had wasn't silence anymore, it was ashes. There wasn't even anything left to burn. Days later, he moved out, and for the first time, it didn't hurt because I was finally free. Carla? She became a whispered name. No one wanted to be seen with her anymore. Her parties stood empty. Her grandkids no longer called her grandma. Only that lady who lives far away. The perfect family she bragged about on social media crumbled over time. I turned my pain into purpose. I used part of my inheritance to start a foundation supporting women facing emotional battles within their own families. I gave voice to the silenced, shelter to the forgotten, and finally found the purpose Carla tried to steal from me. Today, my children know who I am. They know what I've been through. They know that love also means protection. Because in the end, Carla got exactly what she deserved. And I found the peace she will never know. If this story touched you, subscribe to our channel. Here, we share true stories of pain, resilience, and silent revenge every single day. Have you ever gone through something like this? Have you ever felt the sting of betrayal by someone who was supposed to protect you? Share your story in the comments. Your voice might inspire other women to never stay silent again. And remember, the most powerful revenge is finding happiness despite it all.